All right, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack something absolutely profound. We're going to look at the paradigm-shifting meaning behind one of the most repeated, yet honestly most misunderstood phrases in all of spiritual history. Lord of the Worlds, or in its original phrasing, Rabbul Âlemîn. Now, if you're familiar with this phrase, you might just picture a distant creator, sort of managing galaxies from afar. But as our source material reveals, the true depth of this concept is wild. It literally bridges the gap between quantum physics, the atomic structure of a snowflake, and the intimate, multi-generational spiritual trials of human history. So stick with me, because we are going to explore how this single, incredible concept dictates both the energy trapped inside a rock and the ultimate sacrifices of humanity's greatest figures. So, to kick things off, let's look at a breathtaking question posed to Moses in the Quran. It immediately frames our whole journey into what it actually means to call God Lord, or Rabb. Picture the scene. Pharaoh arrogantly asks Moses, "Who is the Lord of you two?" And Moses responds that his Lord is the one who gave everything its specific nature, its unique creation, and then guided it. The source explains something crucial here. Rabb means the one who instills a specific purpose into the very core of a being and then meticulously nurtures it to fulfill that potential. We're not talking about an absentee landlord. This is a deeply involved, incredibly intimate kind of lordship. Section 1. What does Lord of the Worlds mean? Okay, so when we say Lord of the Worlds, what exactly are these worlds? Well, here is a totally fascinating linguistic twist. The word alam isn't actually originally an Arabic word. The source points out that its ancient linguistic roots in the Semitic language family, likely from Syriac or Aramaic words like alam, tied deeply into the concept of time. It doesn't just mean a physical place like a planet or a galaxy. It refers to a boundless period, an era, or a distinctly defined time frame. And understanding that linguistic root reveals how the source text uses the term in two very distinct ways. Sometimes Alamin means the absolute entirety of existence, right? Every galaxy, every star, all matter and energy between the heavens and the earth. But at other times, it's used to mean a very specific group of people limited to their unique time and space. Catching this dual meaning is a real game changer because it completely shifts how we read those ancient stories about people being chosen above the worlds. Section 2. The chosen of their era. So what does it actually mean when the text says the Creator chose certain people from the worlds? As we just learned, it doesn't mean they were chosen above every single human to ever exist until the end of time. Rather, it means they were the absolute pinnacle of their own specific era. When the text talks about God choosing certain people, we're actually tracing a chronological spiritual evolution. God didn't just pick people randomly, like drawing names out of a hat. The source explains that the text specifically lists Adam, Noah, the family of Abraham, and the family of Imran to show a highly deliberate progression. God selected individuals from their specific eras to push human spiritual evolution forward, step by step. Let's break that down. Adam's selection was all about becoming the prototype for conscious humanity. To be chosen naturally implies there were alternatives, meaning Adam was elevated from among other beings to receive intellect, will, and spirit. Then we have Noah. Noah was chosen because, for the very first time in history, a society had deviated enough to require a specific messenger to bring them back on track. But then, with Abraham, the paradigm completely shifts. The spiritual focus moves away from just the individual messenger and centers on the family unit. The epicenter of spiritual life becomes the home. This is exactly why the Kaaba is called the house of God. Not because God physically lives inside it, obviously, but because it represents the universal house of humanity. It firmly establishes the family and the home as the ultimate sanctuary of faith. Section 3. Sacrifice and the dedication of the human. All right, let's tackle one of the most wildly misunderstood concepts in modern religion, the qurban, or the act of sacrifice, which ties directly back to that family model established by Abraham. The source emphasizes that modern believers often reduce this entire profound concept just to the animal. But think about it. The meat doesn't reach God. It gets eaten and goes to people. The animal is just food. The true sacrifice, the actual entity drawing closer to the Creator through devotion, which, by the way, is what the word qurban literally translates to, is the human being. This realization completely reframes the famous story of Abraham and Ishmael. The ram didn't die in place of Ishmael so that Ishmael could somehow be immortal. Ishmael still grew old and he eventually died. The whole point is that Ishmael had to live to be a true sacrifice. You don't become a sacrifice by dying. You become a sacrifice by living a life entirely, unwaveringly devoted to God. And the family of Imran models this exact type of true, living sacrifice perfectly. It started with Hannah, who dedicated her unborn child to the Creator. That child was Mary, who then lived a life of absolute, ultimate purity and devotion. And from her came Jesus. Think about that. This was a family giving from their own flesh, their own blood, and their entire lives across 3 generations. They achieved the ultimate sacrifice without a single animal ever being slaughtered. They sacrificed themselves by how they chose to live. Section 4. The 4 women who shape our horizon. Now, these ultimate examples of being chosen in one's own world are highlighted by 4 exemplary women: Asiya, Mary, Khadija, and Fatima. And listen, they were not chosen by some divine lottery. As the source passionately argues, they were chosen because of their phenomenal, world-altering actions in the face of absolute adversity. Take Khadija, who spent her entire fortune supporting the early message of Islam, so much so that God literally sent her a direct greeting through the angel Gabriel. Or Fatima, who endured crippling social boycotts and emotional agony, stepping up to act as a mother to her own father during his hardest trials. They earned that chosen status through immense grit and unshakable faith. Think about Asiya's monumental choice for a second. As the wife of Pharaoh, she was the princess of the greatest, wealthiest empire on earth. Pharaoh essentially offered her the ultimate symbol of earthly power, perhaps even the grandest pyramid, if she would just abandon her faith. But what did she do? She completely rejected the entire empire for a spiritual house built on proximity to the Creator. She consciously chose unseen truth over the ultimate physical luxury. Her profound realization, perfectly captured in her prayer, shows just an incredibly elevated state of consciousness. She didn't just ask God to be saved from the physical person of Pharaoh. She asked to be saved from the deeds of Pharaoh. She understood that true liberation isn't just about escaping external tyranny. It's about ensuring you don't harbor that exact same arrogance, that same tyranny within your own heart. Section 5. The Secret of Lordship, from the Atom to the Universe. Okay, now let's completely shift gears and zoom way, way in to see how this exact same concept of Rabb, or Lord, governs the very physical laws of our universe. Rububiyyah, the act of lordship, is manifested directly in matter itself. A gold atom doesn't just decide to be gold. The source explains that the specific atomic arrangement of iron, or gold, or silver is a direct manifestation of this lordship. It gives absolute identity to everything. It dictates the complex biological balance of the human gallbladder, which actually affects a person's temperament. It governs the meticulously unique crystalline design of a single snowflake. God didn't just say, be gold. He manifested a highly specific formula that resulted in gold. When we look at the universe through this specific lens, science takes on a deeply spiritual dimension. When gases turn to liquids or liquids freeze into solids, we aren't just watching blind physics play out. According to the source, what we are actually seeing is matter in a state of absolute submission to the formulas and laws embedded within it by the Creator. The universe doesn't have a choice, does it? It just perfectly obeys the mathematical and physical commands it was given. Consider just 1 single kilogram of matter. The source notes an amazing fact. Within the atomic bonds of just 1 kilogram of mass, there is enough potential energy to literally devastate the Earth. This reveals the staggering, terrifying power placed into the fabric of the universe by the Creator. If just 1 kilogram holds that much destructive energy, try to imagine the sheer, unfathomable power contained within the mass of the entire cosmos. It just commands a profound, overwhelming sense of awe. So when we say Lord of the Worlds, it is a truly all-encompassing reality. It is so much more than just a title. It is the active, sustaining force that brilliantly bridges the cold laws of thermodynamics, the atomic structures of heavy metals, the boundless, unfolding eras of time, and the intimate, painful, yet glorious spiritual trials of humanity's greatest historical figures. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly vital thought from the source material to reflect on today. Think about it. The Creator pours infinite care and specific identity into the fleeting, molecular design of a single snowflake, a snowflake that will melt into nothing in just seconds. Knowing this, how could we ever justify wasting our own massive potential? If absolutely everything in the physical universe perfectly fulfills the distinct purpose embedded within it, the only real question left is, will you?